to the All in Mountain Brook podcast, where we strive to provide families in our community with factual information in the areas of personal safety, mental health, and overall wellness. Our hope is that All In will be seen as a trusted and positive source as we navigate the ever-changing world around us and promote a collectively successful future. All in Mountain Brook provides free in-person training sessions and conferences, podcasts and webinars, online resources, and more. We hope you will consider supporting All In by making a tax-deductible donation at allinmountainbrook.org/donate. And now, whether you are on a walk, driving carpool, or have a few minutes of downtime, we hope you enjoy today's All in Mountain Brook podcast.
Hi everyone, I'm Stacy White, and I am a board member for All in Mountain Brook, and I am so pleased to be here today with Alexis Sapp. Alexis is a licensed professional counselor and supervising counselor. She is also a nationally board certified counselor, and we are talking today about establishing routines that support success. So first, Alexis, will you tell us a little bit about yourself and your counseling practice?
Yes, thank you so much, first off, Stacy, for having me today. Like you said, my name is Alexis Sapp. I own ACA Counseling. We are located in the heart of Hoover. We're a small to medium-sized practice. We have 8 therapists on staff. All of our therapists specialize in treating children, adolescents, and teens. And I'm so glad to be here. I've been working with kiddos and families for 17 years now. So we provide individual counseling and small group and family counseling.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much for being here today. We are excited to hear about your wisdom and helpful guidance for establishing routines for children. So tell us, why do routines matter so much for kids?
Well, I think routines matter for not only kids, but for parents as well. So having a routine and structure in place is so important for predictability, not only for the kiddos, but for the parents. And overall, routines are important because they reduce stress and they decrease potential, battles between parents and kids, especially during hard times like transitions or mornings, leaving for school, getting home from school, activities. So having routines is just important for predictability and, again, just that kind of stress management and really producing more successes for kids and for their parents.
So if I'm stressed as a parent, where do I start? What's the best place to start creating routines at home?
That's a great question. I usually tell parents that with anything, and I like to use an exercise example. So you want to set a SMART goal. So that's just an easy acronym for it to be a specific goal, measurable, attainable, relatable, and timely. And so if we were going to set a fitness goal for ourselves, right, we would not go all in and just work out 7 days a week and, do it for hours. So we want it to start off to be, small and measurable. So with parents, you want to pick something that is going to be attainable and that you and your child will feel success with. So maybe you don't start with the hardest thing, right? If nighttime's the hardest, you maybe want to start with something in the morning. So possibly making sure that you're packing your kids' backpack the night before, and they're helping you pack it the night before so that it's set up before you walk out the door, you can grab it. The water bottle is packed the night before. You can fill that up. They keep them cold for hours. And so you want to start with small steps that feel achievable and manageable and then add on.
I love that. That's great, especially the water bottle. That's a small thing that I would not have thought to do.
That is something that we do at my home now.
Okay.
That has, I do mine at night. I'm that has helped. It worked for my kids and their backpacks. I'm why don't I go ahead and do mine at night too? So
saves you 30 seconds in the morning.
Absolutely.
Okay. So how do we set boundaries and expectations without battles?
That's also a good question. So kids want boundaries. They may not know it, but they do thrive on boundaries. And I always tell parents kids are not mini adults. That is, that is not true. They are kiddos. And so with boundaries, you're looking at appropriate developmental stages, right? We're going to have certain expectations for our 4 and 5-year-old that are going to be different than our, 11, 12, or 14-year-old. So being consistent is very important and being clear. So I'll have parents frequently, if they say, go clean your room, maybe to their 7-year-old, and then it leads to a meltdown. Well, that's a time to be really specific. What does clean your room mean? Okay. And so you're wanting to be I want you to hang up your clothes. This is very specific. And so being consistent and clear is going to help decrease confusion for your child and frustration for both of you.
Does it help to have written cues for that? Or do you just give verbal cues to, pick up your room, or being more specific as picking up your clothes, picking up your toys, put away your whatevers.
Yes. And so I think if you're looking at starting like a visual chart or reward system or consequences, I love visuals. I think they're very important. So kids, we say a lot of words as adults, and they're only taking in, maybe 20% of what we're saying. And so not only do we need to tell them, but we have to show them. And we forget that as parents. We just think that they know what X, Y, and Z means, but we need to be really, really specific. And so I love a visual chart. And I tell parents, even when they're little and you're wanting to teach them responsibility, like putting up your shoes or not kicking them off in the middle of the living room, let them help create an afternoon chart or a morning chart and let them help you create it. Don't just do it for them, because they're automatically going to have more buy-in if they have some agency over what they've created. And so I love a chart. I mean, this is something too. You're just like, if we go back to the workout analogy, eventually you're going to have to change your workout, out to increase, muscle mass or whatever goal that you have. You're going to have to change it up. So what works for your child this school year, you may have to shift it for the summer, a different visual chart for the morning or the afternoon to help them be successful, because it stops working, and that's okay. My oldest daughter finally figured out what works for her, and she uses an expo marker on her mirror, and she does her checklist. And then she's got another mirror that she does her homework checklist on, and because she can wipe it off. It took us a long time to get there to figure out what works for her.
That's interesting. Oh. And so you can be flexible. Yes. You can pivot if needed.
You have to, right? And I think that's so important, so not feel like, well, this didn't work. That's okay. We got to try something new, try something different. I use sticky notes. Like, I have things that I have to do, visual reminders for myself as an adult. And so that's important to keep working with your kids and keep talking about what works for them and what doesn't. I tell parents, we don't want to just create a chart and give it to them. Like, ask your kid. They know. They have great insight. They're actually better than Google, because they're going to be like, hey, this may work, Mom or Dad, or let's try this. And again, they've automatically got more buy-in because they were a part of it.
Exactly. That's true for almost anybody, right? If you get to participate, you have buy-in.
Right. Don't just tell me what to do. Let me have a part of it. Yes.
Love it. That's wonderful. We talked a little bit about practical strategies in the morning. What about smoother bedtimes? How in the world could we have smoother bedtimes at my house?
Good question. Again, I think it's trial and error. And as parents, we have to give ourselves grace and give our kids grace when something doesn't work. And I think, too, knowing that, not every night is going to be smooth, but being consistent and having a routine. And I know as a parent, this can be our routine. You get home, you have I like to call it a first and then, right? So first you're going to do your homework, then you get to go outside. Unless you have a hyperactive kid that first they need to go outside, then they get their homework done. Or you have your have-tos, which would maybe be your cleaning up when you get home, doing your homework, and then your want-tos, maybe your screen time, etc., whatever your child is trying to kind of earn or gain when they get home. And so having your have-tos, your want-tos, and this expectation set when you get home is great, and I think that is super important. But then also, it's got to be flexible for when you have soccer practice or something else. And so even when you're in the car or you've got an extracurricular activity, like, hey, what are your have-tos and what are your want-tos? And they may look a little different in the car because we've got soccer practice this afternoon for brother or sister, but you can still have that consistent language, I think, is really important for kids, so that they can still hear you're still talking the same language, even though you're having to pivot and it's in the car or it's at a practice, if that makes sense.
That's really good advice. I never really thought about having the same language, because that in itself is a routine.
It is. And even, my family, we do, I don't know if you've heard the, best part of your day, your high-low, your buffalo, your rose, your thorn. And so we use that language. And of course, we like to do it when we have dinner around the table, which is absolutely not every night, right? But then I love seeing it, like we do it in the car, or we do it at practice, or one of my kids leads it. And it's like, even though we're driving all over the world today and it's a crazy afternoon or it's fall festival, we still did high-low buffalo together as a family, even if it was in the car.
Okay.
And so there's predictability in that. And that's that emotional safety for your kids too, even when things may be a little chaotic.
That's really, really helpful.
Good.
Okay, can you give me some ideas about technology and routines to help us manage screen time?
Absolutely. That is one of the biggest battles that families face. And so I'll tell my my kiddos and my teenagers and at my practice, like, you may love Miss Alexis until it comes to this. I am really strict about screen time because, it affects our kids and not in a positive way, especially our little ones. It really can dysregulate them. But screens are here to stay, and so learning to manage them is important. I usually recommend to parents, let's see, if you have let what maybe screen time get out of control, which a lot of parents will come, they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to get this back in control. I'm like, that's okay, right? Let's pivot and make a screen time routine for your family so that maybe your kid that has too much screen time right now doesn't feel like they're in trouble, because as the parent, like, we let that happen, right? Mm-hmm. And so maybe have it structured as a family time. Like, we all put our phones or our devices up, 30 minutes before bedtime. Or you have sometimes people have like a bowl, you put your phones in the bowl and you put it up. That kind of stuff. Sometimes people are like, that's silly. I'm like, but it works, right? Because you're going over, you're not just saying it, you're actually physically doing it, and you're doing it together as a family. So implementing family technology limitations can be really successful because your kids are holding you accountable. Mm-hmm. They're like, hold on, Mom, wait, this is our time. And it's like, oh, wait, am I doing that again? I do need to go put it in the bowl because it's such a habit for us to, especially as parents, they're watching us.
Right.
And we can, sometimes we're giving these rules about screen times and expectations, and then we're, on our phones.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
So if you have family expectations, sometimes that helps to manage the battles.
I think it really does. And just knowing that, 30 minutes before bedtime for all of us, mm-hmm. that we need to put the screens away. So whether it's drawing or reading, whatever your kiddo likes to do outside of a screen, really trying to implement that and then do it with them. Put your phone up, model, right? Read the book beside them, especially our little kids. They don't want to just hear it, like, do it with them. That is so important because, again, they're just soaking in what we're doing all of the time.
Great advice. That's so great. One of the things one of my children had the hardest time with was transitions. Mm-hmm. And I can remember, okay, it's time to go to the grocery store. Mm-hmm. Let's get up and go. And that led to meltdowns. How can routines help with transition?
And that's so, like you said, every child is so different. So this, some of this advice, it's like you have to take a piece of it and then you can make it work for your family and your child. And so transitions, like you said, going to the store, or even, like I said, in the morning, and I have one of those kiddos, I have one that's the rule follower and doing everything, and one that I'm really working hard to make sure that we're in some sort of routine. So again, like going to the store. So you tell your child, we're about to go to the store, in 15 minutes. Give them a warning. Give them some time to adjust, whatever that's going to look like, whether they want to, if they're younger, you want to put on your favorite shoes, something. Kids respond to rewards. Parents are like, is bribery okay? I'm like, call it whatever you want. But, we respond to rewards, right? We don't work for free, most of us. We, mm-hmm. Work for something. And so letting them pick out your cool shoes. We're about to go 15 minutes. What does that 15 minutes mean? Let's set a timer. And then you're going to get in the car, you're going to grab X, Y, and Z, whatever they need to go to the store. So verbally telling them, walking them through it, because a lot of times as parents, we'll just yell what we want them to do, and that's not effective. We need to go to them when they're younger, especially, and look at them and tell them what is about to happen. And if they really struggle, have them write it down. Have you checked, like I said, the whiteboard? I use a whiteboard with my younger one. My older one used to use the whiteboard until, like I said earlier, she turned it into the mirror and the expo marker and all the great things. But I will have her go, and like, she's the child that has to check off that she put her shoes on. And that's okay. Eventually she's going to really remember, but not now. And so, even if it's that small transition, but that's predictable for them. They can run over, and they love checking things off. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes that can help ease those transitional, meltdowns.
Okay. And really focusing on the small steps.
The small steps that seem so small to us, but are so big for them, especially at those developmental, when they're younger, those 4 years old to really about 8 years old, they really, those visual cues and those reminders and that modeling is so important to them. Okay. It's not until they're probably 10 or 11 years old and up to maybe 14 that they don't need us to model everything as much. And so I really think that we forget that, as parents. It's like, shouldn't you have it by now? It's like, no, not really. We really need to keep developmentally, their little brains are still growing. They're in a developmental stage, where they need us to be there with them, helping them.
That's a great reminder. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
What advice would you give parents who feel guilty or feel frustrated if they can't keep the routines up? We all have those days.
Yeah. again, give yourself grace. It is progress over perfection. There's no perfect routine. There's not one book. It's lots of books. And so I think just, giving yourself grace and then trying something new, knowing you're going to have to pivot and trying it out. Like I usually tell parents, I'm like, hey, and kids, if we're trying a new routine for them, maybe at home or at night, or a reward system or decreasing screen time, like we're not married to this idea. We're just trying it out for a little bit. Let's try it for, 3 weeks. And then if it doesn't work, let's reevaluate. And that's okay. I would tell parents you're going to have to readjust because as they age, they're going to need something different to help them stay on track to, a 6-year-old meltdown is going to look different than a 14-year-old girl meltdown because they're still having meltdowns, right? And so just to know that it's okay for it to not be perfect and that we are going to have to continue to, refresh in these routines and structure for success for our kids.
Is that the best advice if your child is resistant? I don't like this, Mom. I'm not happy with the way this is going. What advice can you give them? Is it just to try it for a little while? We're going to do this for 14 days and we can make adjustments. How do you rally the troops?
Absolutely. Well, I think, again, having agency, it's like, okay, so what don't you like about it? And like kind of go in a step deeper. Like, what don't they like about it? Are they feeling embarrassed? I mean, sometimes they're having all these feelings that, we may think it's just coming across and presenting as anger, but really there's embarrassment or there's social anxiety going on. So talking to them about what do they not like about it and what would be better? And then maybe I understand, I hear you don't like this and we have to do hard things in life that we don't like. So if you do it X, Y, and Z for, 3 days, again, a SMART goal, something specific, measurable, and attainable for the child, what can you earn? Let them earn something. That's okay. Whether it's going to the dollar store, it doesn't have to be monetary. It can be, extra fun time outside, but have them, because we do have to do hard things we don't like. So how can we get rewarded for it until it becomes more natural? Again, especially for those 4 to kind of, maybe 8 years old, rewards, they work.
That's great. Yeah, really good advice. And SMART. I love the SMART.
SMART goal. I love a SMART goal too. I try to do it to myself. Like, right? Is this an adult SMART goal? Or am I trying to do something that's not achievable for myself?
Very helpful. So what's some takeaways that you would like families to know or to be able to achieve routines today?
I think having a family meeting about it, if you're going to try to implement something, again, kind of like going to our workout, example, have everybody involved in it, right? Don't make it too big, but hey, we're going to, because sometimes if you haven't had a routine and then parents start trying to, or you haven't had screen limits, like you need to, and parents start just implementing all these things, the kids are like, what is happening? And so if you're going to implement something, like have a family talk about it, like what can this look like? That way, again, mom, dad, or, caregiver, it's not all on you. Like the kids are in on it too. That way it feels more manageable for the parent. So start with something small, have family successes to celebrate it, and then start tackling your bigger and larger transition times that are harder.
Okay. And consistency must be key.
Consistency, and that too, I'll tell parents, like, don't give up, like they're melting down. You're doing all you can, like, it will get better, right? But we have to be consistent, just like your workout routine. We're not going to achieve what we want in 2 weeks.
Sure.
So the kids is the same way. You've got to keep on being consistent with them and don't let them break you down, especially if you have the kid that's throwing the fit. Like they may or may not, depending on your child's situation, have figured out like this fit works. And so you've got to be consistent so that eventually, it does break that behavior that they are implementing that they figured out works.
And we're taking the long view, right? This is not an overnight transformation. This is a long, consistent road.
It is. The strategies and the interventions for families functioning at an optimal level these days, it's family effort, a group effort, and let it be that. I would say as a takeaway for a parent, let your kiddos be as involved as they can, so it feels like it's a family unit, routine and strategy, because the goal is for the family unit to function at an optimal level.
That's great. And that looks different for everybody, right? Every family's functionality is a little different.
Absolutely. And that's okay.
Okay. Yes. Well, good. Well, thank you. Anything else that we should know or try in our ability to create success for our kids?
I think that, again, just the takeaways of giving yourself grace, talking to your kids, find out what they need. We may think that we know what they need, but talk to them and let them know, like, what is happening in the morning that is so frustrating. They provide a lot of insight, and a lot of times, especially with our, I would say, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds, we are not asking them what they need as much as we should. And our teenagers,
Okay.
like they've got I work with kids, I'm like, they've got great insight. We just have to slow down and listen to them.
Wonderful advice. That is terrific. And sometimes things that we forget about.
Yeah, and give them the space to do it. Don't make it sitting down across the table and feel punitive. Take a walk with your teenager, do a walk and talk. Driving in the car, at the playground, that's that bilateral, that gets into the clinical stuff, but that's that bilateral stimulation that makes us, it calms the nervous system so that it doesn't feel like they should be scared or they're in trouble, so make it not feel punitive and give them, a space that feels comfortable and easy.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. I so appreciate you being here with us today, for giving us such great information and practical tips that we can use every day. We all want to support our children and just so appreciate you giving your time.
Well, thank you so much. This was wonderful. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. We would like to express our appreciation to our outstanding speakers and All In board members who have shared their time and wisdom, William Galloway and Mountain Brook Schools for providing the podcast equipment and expertise, and to Chris Sima with Open Water Productions for producing our podcast series.